Hey. And this is what happens when you check the live stream and discover you didn't hit the go live button. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the live play, actual play of Vergence, the RPG. And we have a succession crisis. And I just asked everybody on this stream to explain where their characters were last, but since no one heard that, I'm going to ask them to do it again. And here, just to make it more interesting, I will do it out of sequence. Varia, where was your character last?
Varia was outside the royal prison of Agaros, uh, in or around the royal palace, being bothered by nonsense that uh, really isn't my business, as far as I'm aware. Um, so yeah, we'll see. Prince Hades had a few people requesting aid on his behalf. Um, we'll see how compelling they can be, because Varia is not necessarily there.
All right. So, yeah. So, Varia, actually, do me a favor since we want to explain. So, your character, Varia, she is from the Maelstrom. What should people know about her?
Um, that is a good question. She's a pilot, first and foremost. She has a ship. Being from the Maelstrom, she is uh, from or a land colloquially, um, of no land, just all air. Um, and that place, the Maelstrom that she's from, has a lot of people who uh, pilot vessels for travel, for uh, making their living, and Varia would be one of those. Of course, she's also a bloodline character, being a PC by default, which means prominent and powerful, rather stand out against uh, the background of uh, an infinite number of worlds. Um, but yeah, those are like the biggest qualities for her.
Awesome. Thank you. Horizon Leaf, your character. Please explain who you are, where you're from, and why it is that you are the perfect warrior for this time.
All right, so Horizon Leaf is from the Serpent, which is one of the other Vergences. Serpent is a gigantic 1,000-mile long serpent creature that travels through the Umbra endlessly, and people live on and in its body. Millions of people do that. He is also a bloodline character from the Serpent noble bloodline, which means he's able to travel through the Umbra across infinite worlds and use various interesting powers. He happens to be a shapeshifter, which means he likes to change his shape and imitate what others look like. So he can be a rather sneaky guy. He is medium height, long white hair, violet eyes, tends to wear, brocade vests and look angsty. And he has sort of an
I like the angsty with the brocade vest. That's a
yes,
nice combination.
it fits well. And he has a sort of invisible friend who has an angsty backstory that we'll, I'm sure, be getting into over time. When last we left Horizon Leaf, he was in the royal palace of Agaros. He had heard that the Queen of Agaros had been murdered and that his friend, Prince Hades, had been accused of killing his own mother and was imprisoned. And he is trying to at least get the story directly from Prince Hades. He had also been told by his father, Fallen Scythe, to go and talk to Hades.
And Hades, what do you look like? What do you sound like? Why are you the most awesome creature in the history of all things? And where are you?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm going to be playing Prince, I guess, King, Hades Basilikos. Um, he's a very regal, I would say, tan skinned, curly brunette hair, really, really light brown, almost kind of yellowish eyes, and a kind of thin stream of smoke that's kind of constantly coming out of his mouth or nostrils, kind of a sweet tobacco-y type smoke. Um, he is the heir to the Agorian throne. Pretty cool guy, pleasant, well mannered, and currently accused of matricide. So that's
As
a
one is.
setback. It's a setback of sorts. But we'll get this sorted out, and I have total faith in the Agorian system.
Oh, and no doubt. No doubt at all. All right, so when we last left this, I'm sure it'll all work out beautifully. There will
No
be no
complications
strain, no
whatsoever.
complications. When
Not at all.
last we left the charming characters, Varia and Horizon Leaf were in the main palace, inside Agaros, inside the caverns, and had discovered that Prince Hades was in the most plush, of course, the most incredibly wonderful of all of the jail cells in Agaros, and that there were 5 guards guarding the area, 2 standing on either side of the door, and then 3 at a little table off to the side just playing cards, being there, being seen to be there, because right now nobody knows who's in charge and everybody wants to make sure that they are showing things up. Horizon Leaf is in a conversation. Varia had just had a special character come up and discuss things with her. So let's start with Varia. What you had just had been approached by a fairly interesting being. What's going on with that?
Yeah, I was about to leave, cause Hades has done this to himself clearly. Um, and as I was about to exit uh, the royal palace, to regroup and maybe come up with a plan rather than just walk in and this will all be fine. Um, I was approached by Horizon Leaf's uh, tu, tu, Tupla? What was it?
Tulpa. Invisible
Tulpa?
friend.
Tolpa.
T-U-L. Okay. I didn't know the P and the L. Uh, but yeah, a manifestation of power uh, that I know to be indicative of Horizon Leaf's presence. Um, I'm not aware of where Horizon Leaf is right now because he currently is masquerading uh, under the guise of a different person, as one does. Uh, but I paused for a second, and I'm willing to hear out if there's a plan going on here.
So the Tolpa is in the shape of a girl, is in the shape of a beautiful woman. Do you know who that Tulpa originally was supposed to be? This is a creation from the memory of Horizon Leaf of somebody. Do you know anything about that?
I don't think that Varia was involved in the group, or especially like in the group's love triangles and things like that. So like, yeah, I don't imagine that Varia necessarily had that information or really cared. Uh, and she's not necessarily the person to go like doing background checks or researching people. So it's
Yep.
not like after knowing that this entity exists, like unless she just came up to me and said it. But I also imagine I don't necessarily see the creature. Um, Varya has the power. She has the ability to sense things that are not as they should be, but it is not necessarily like true sight. I don't just like see through all guises. I don't have the ability to just know everything. Uh, but I think being from the Maelstrom and being very oriented around air and sound and things like that, I think I can hear the Tulpa
Okay.
in a way that other people can't.
And the reason why I'm asking is for people watching live or watching the replay. The memory that Horizon Leaf created is of his former love, who is Hades' dead sister. It's a little angsty. It's a little creepy. We're not aware if Hades knows about this. Varia is not in the details. When they become aware of who this creature was created of, they might have issues. You know, they might have full subscriptions. We will find out. So, Varia, what you hear from the Tulpa is essentially, Hades is in the main room, is discussing with the queen's sister, trying to find out what's going on, and it's just very important that you and he get Hades out of here, and there's so many things that are coming on. Would you be able to come in and connect with Horizon, or do you have other plans? She's not trying to instruct you. She's more informing you of what's going on. So it's your call as to what you do next, Varia.
Yeah, I mean, Varia would probably like hang out or scope out who's in the area. But Varia is also not terribly interested in getting caught up in any sort of politics, especially in Agros, and if they have a messy affair going on in their own. So like she's been distant from what was his name? The man that I came here because of.
Father,
Ikafel?
Oh yeah, so Inkafel. Jared's father, who historically, I'm sorry, Jared's father, Hades' father, not the player character's father, the action, yeah, there we go. Whoops. Are you muted or unmuted?
Oh, I'm
Here
muted.
We go.
Sorry.
Okay, good.
Say it's a multiverse, so it's possible. But
it's a multiverse. Well, I will bring up one thing, and this is how because we're doing a live play and showing everybody how the game works. I haven't been a GM in 20, 30 years, in a long time. I started when I was 2. So David is the creator of the game, and Travis and Jared have been doing live play and testing with us for a long time and know the game really well. So I'm actually going to take some feedback that I got from Travis at the end of the last game, in that my NPC screwed up on something, and I'm going to make it part of the plot. So one of the things that I want everybody to be aware of is that when Varia was given information from Inkafel of coming to, do this, this is the consort. This is a not powered character. And yet this character referred to our powers, which is a little weird. So just wanted to throw that out there, because I'm going to add that complication because I think it's fun.
Well,
all right.
We call it happy accidents, right?
Happy accidents. And I want to do that really upfront, because I want everybody to be learning the game as we're doing this, because we're going to be doing a Kickstarter soon and want everybody to be part of it and all the things. So this is how the game works. And if you get these wonderful, lovely little tidbits, you can kind of think about it and go, I can really mess with my friends and my husband. I think I will. And I've decided to make that part of the plot. So that's where we are.
There are no mistakes with GMing. It's like Bob Ross painting. It's just happy little accidents.
Happy little accidents. Happy little tree. All right. So I am going to. So Varya, you are heading over to where Horizon Leaf is currently being somebody else.
I'm not going to approach anybody. I'm just
Okay.
going to hang out in the hall, watching people from a distance,
Excellent.
and keeping away from any sort of like royal, like contingencies or like people who
Kerfuffles.
are trying to like pull you in, like, oh, you're here for the funeral or something. Like, no, I'm here to avoid you. What do you want from me?
Yeah, Varya. She for characters, for when a character has to be in a campaign, succession is the least fun for Varya because it's all politics, and that's not her idea of a good time. I'm
Yeah, that's
guessing.
not freedom. That's not
No,
flying a sky pirate ship.
exactly, exactly. All right, so
All
I'm
the
going to
best
split
politics have sky pirates. So
sky pirates and giant hamsters that also run wheels to keep the ships in float, which is just a little throw out to the live stream of Lawyers and Dragons, who had a sky pirate ship that had giant hamsters running it. So pretty cool stuff. All right, Horizon Leaf, you are in the end of the Great Hall in this giant, elaborate, enormous place, talking to a woman who is standing by the window, looking all very angsty and posed. Tell us all how things are going here.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Solara, who had been Queen Inhedron's estranged sister. She seems to be jumping into the politics of the situation now since her sister is dead. I think I've gathered enough information from her. I have been in the guise of an older gentleman, so I will take my leave of her. My goal is to find a place where I can shift. I have an ability that says if I have someone's specifically memorized, their form memorized, I can quickly go into their form, and I can actually access their memories and personality. And I start with one character memorized from my list of contacts. That happens to be the captain of the Crimson Guard, who he and I do not get along, which is why I have him memorized. He is marked as my rival, Inkefelon,
Inkefelon.
which you've established as having a bit of a lisp.
Inkefelon.
Inkefelon. But
he's the brother of the prince. Thank you very much. And the captain of the Crimson Guard. Sorry, Varya.
No, I was going to ask. I had two dumb questions as David's speaking about these abilities he has. Am I correct in understanding that your ability to shift into people requires a blood component? Like,
sure. So I can attempt to shift into anybody. I can memorize a specific person by tasting their blood. I don't have to like suck them dry or anything, but I need to taste their blood, and that becomes a long-term project that happens during the longer scheming phase. But I start with one character already memorized, who I select from my list of 6 contacts that I have. And so I selected Enkefelon as the one that I have memorized in the course of the campaign. I wouldn't be surprised if I end up with a few more.
You probably punched him in the face at some point just to make him bleed so that you could steal his form and mess with him.
It was a rough funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so you are talking to the sister of the former queen, Hades' now theoretically deceased mother.
Hades' aunt.
Yes, this is Hades' aunt, but the queen was mom, and this is the aunt. And she, you have noticed that she seems to be having an internal battle we talked about in the last stream, where the direct the expectation has always been that Hades would succeed his mother. But because if Hades just did turn her into charcoal, then instead that would be someone else. That would be another member of the extended family. And it's kind of understood that the sister never really wanted any part of this. But in conversation, you feel a sense of this, she's trying very hard to keep down a sense of gloating, and that there is a battle inside her of, no, I think that it should be, that the next person in line would be Kyneth, would be this Duchess, that makes sense. And yet you feel this disconnect of essentially that not being true, and that she really is like, well, it could be me. And there's almost this internal war. You are in the, sorry, you had a question?
So does it seem like sort of there are, so I want to suss out, is this just her feeling conflicted, or is something weird going on with her?
Something weird's going on with her.
And so I'm going to start, I'm going to try to gather a bit more information. I'm going to just, I think, switch back and forth between talking to her as if she is clearly the obvious choice to lead the realm, and then switching back to, well, of course, Kyneth is the clear successor if Hades is out. But of course, Hades does have a claim despite having possibly murdered his mother, but perhaps he's been framed. So I'm going to be
You're going to be messing with her hard.
Yeah, I'm going to be kind of schizophrenic about that. And
Okay.
sort of bouncing around viewpoints, because she's bouncing around viewpoints. And I want to kind of mirror back and forth her different viewpoints at her to see if that spins her further into some kind of weird shift or what.
Well, that's good.
You gather information by being kind of sneaky and weird about this.
Yes. So one thing that I want to be clear about is that you get this sense of an internal struggle. What she's saying outwardly is what she's always said.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not giving you two external lines, but you get a strong sense of it now.
Right, but I'm kind of creating that I'm trying to create that in the conversation for her.
Yes.
Kind of push that separation.
So could one of you throw into the private chat the link to the roller?
Yep, on it.
Thank you.
Right.
Because we're going to be throwing some dice up. There we go. Okay. So let me go ahead and share my screen here.
And so you would decide if this is a risky kind of thing where I'm taking some chances, that would be an action roll. Or if you just want to see how much information I get, you could make it into a fortune roll if there's no real risk involved.
I'm going to say that there's not. That's a good point. I'd like there to be a consequence. So I think that needs to be an action roll.
Okay, that's cool. I would like to use my contrive action. That's why I was describing it as being sneaky rather than just like trying to be persuasive.
Mm-hmm.
Which could be risky. That could mean that it's riskier because I'm being weird.
No, I'm gonna call this. So for those watching, the way the game is structured is the sort of default for action is that it is risky standard. So there is a certain level of risk. You will get a certain amount of information. You can shift things to get more information or have a greater effect. Essentially, you can also, in certain situations, have more or less risk. Now, because David, you're using your contrive skill, which has 3 dots in it. You get 3 dice. Now, historically 3 dice don't necessarily always work well for us, but you know, no, they're always perfect. But you have options in which if you wanted to try to shift things to get a greater effect or to be able to have extra dice, you are allowed to do things like that in the game. What is it that you want to do? Because right now we're talking risky. There's going to be a consequence. It's not tremendous right now, but it's something that will, you know, it will cause you some inconvenience in the future. And you're going to get a certain amount of information, a standard amount of information.
Okay, so it's just a regular.
It's risky standard.
I don't feel the need to manipulate that. I'm happy to just make a roll with 3 dice.
All right. So go ahead and roll, and let's see what you get.
Okay.
The devil's play dice.
Yes. Dun dun dun.
The way this works is we're rolling 3 6-sided dice and interested in what the single highest die. And I got a 6, which means a full success.
Yay. Okay, so that's fantastic. So pretty quickly what you notice is that, I mean, she's always been a very, very sharp character. Now, this is the blind, theoretically crazy sister who has left her position and formed an entirely separate subgroup in this culture for a completely different way of running the throne. But she's never been, you know, I will take power. It's always been, we collectively need to be shifting things. Well, as you start doing that, you notice her snap essentially to look at you, even though she can't really see you, but just attend to you. And you see this little tiny, like touche, like fencer hit, nod, and her go, my sister. Oh my God. And she wails and takes herself out of the room and starts sobbing and basically heads out of the room in full drama queen meltdown. Now, this is not the first time this woman has seen melting down, so it doesn't really surprise anybody, but you're pretty clear, yeah, that's not actually what's going on with her. She just noticed that essentially she's been gotten, and she's like, yeah, no, sorry.
Okay.
And bails out of the room. And when you follow her out of the room with your eyes, you see Varya standing out in the hall watching drama queen wail past.
I turn away, of course.
Of course. It's embarrassing.
Yes.
Yes.
My old, my guise as an older, harmless looking, you know, merchanty gentleman looks horrified and distressed at this poor lady's obvious grief.
All right. Now, here's something that's a little unusual, given how much is going on. At this moment, the only people who have eyes on you, who actually could see you, are Varya, your Tulpa, and that's it. Like, everybody happens to be at this moment distracted. If you decided to shift forms or do something, you do have the ability to do that now. Or you can stay in this form and approach Varya and make plans. You are under instructions, though, you know, historically listening to your father is not your favorite activity.
Yes, but I do want to talk to Hades and find out what's going on. So I think that I do want to shift into the form of Enkephalon, the captain of the Crimson Guard. And
fantastic.
I might give Varya a wink. Varya obviously knows I'm a shapeshifter. Give Varya a wink as I do that and head off toward Hades, toward where I would presume he is being held, which would be obviously the best cell in the
very best
in the dungeon.
So here's something I need to ask about your shapeshifting. So you are able to very closely mimic the personality. You, in fact, because of this, you have some of the memories of, yes?
Yeah, that's what.
But would that include the outfit having a special key that the captain of the guard has? Does that also come through?
I think I would have the simulacrum of that special key, but if it has some sort of special power or something, I don't.
It does. It does. And because of your memory, I'm going to give this to you as a freebie. The Enkephalon has the ability to go into the cell, and the cell, as we described in the session last, is a beautiful apartment, and then there's an entryway.
Yeah,
there's two sets of gates. There's an airlock, and the walls of the airlock and the main apartment are all activated with runic symbols that trap somebody of the power. But there is a special piece of artwork in the entryway that requires keys, that requires a key and a code, and can turn off the power to those symbols, essentially making it so that somebody in that cell could get out. Like they have the ability to turn on and turn that off. They have not. They've never needed to, but it's a safety mechanism that was built into the prison originally, because they did find ways in which they felt like, okay, well, what if we get thrown in our own prison? We do need to be able to make it so that we can have someone come help us escape. So this is something that this is only the knowledge of very specific high-level Crimson Guard members. The captain and, maybe one or two other people ever have known this. But your key is not the real key.
No.
So the real key would be in Enkephalon's quarters or on Enkephalon's person. If you want to break Hades out of the prison, you have different ways of doing that. One of the ways of doing that would be to go in and shift, turn this off and warp out. But you're going to need to get the key. Okay. So that's the knowledge that you have when you shift,
So so going into this form, I start, remembering relevant things, which I didn't have access to when I was not in his form. And I realized that would be a way to get him out. Obviously, another way I think would be just convincing the guards that Hades is coming with me.
Yes, that's another way. You could convince them that you are taking him to, something, and they need to get the hell out of your way. They're all deeply afraid of the captain.
Yeah. I think for now, my main goal is to talk to Hades. For which I do not need this key. So that's kind of plan B if it became necessary. But for now, I want to march toward, up to where the cell is, presumably having to get past guards. And
so
hoping
you go down the hallway. So Varia is on your right. You go down the hallway. You see a beautiful door, and there are two uptight, Mach 1 jaw level, square jaw mooks on either side of the door in their fanciest kit. And you see three sitting at a table. They were playing cards. As soon as they see you, they're instantly like,
at attention.
Oh God, because they have no business being there. They're there to be seen, but they also know that that's not where they're supposed to be.
All right. So I will. So I know this because I have Enkephalon's memories.
Yes.
I will, and I know who they are. I know their names. I will march up, and presumably they stand to attention, salute. I give them a salute back, and I send the three guards who don't belong off on their way, and hoping against what I'm hoping is that the real Enkephalon does not show up or is not like right ahead there.
Are you letting your Tulpa know that your Tulpa should keep an eye out for Enkephalon? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
So if she could be scouting the area and let me know if specifically that character shows up.
Yeah. That would make things inconvenient.
Yes, that would be annoying. But otherwise, I'm going to just, dress them down and march right through.
Okay.
I have
So you
this with the prince,
go into the
princener.
the entryway. Beautiful marble and expensive stone and carved and just the most. I mean, Agaros has a stick up its tush all the time anyway, and is very much about, oh, we have the best food, we have the best this, look at us, aren't we so very? And because it's been the most stable of all the Vergences, it has a certain look to
I'm sorry.
maintain.
Are we talking about Agaros or are we talking about Jared?
As I say, yeah.
Jared is a loyal son of Agaros.
It's reflective of the style of Agaros.
Loyal son. So I mean, most just beautiful. You walk in and there's these chairs.
This sounds like a lot of jealousy.
Yeah, everyone else is jealous. It is quite fabulous. And
must be nice to have a functional government and a benevolent monarchy, and everything just works.
Everything works. Everything is, everybody understands that traffic lights are there for a reason, kind of behavior. Everybody, when you go in and the door shuts behind you, you do hear the secondary hiss. Like there's a lot built into this. Mm-hmm. But you notice, and what surprises you is that Hades hasn't been cleaned up. Hades has been waiting for the twerp from last episode.
The wash bin, yeah.
The wash basin and stuff is still in fabulous outfit, but that has been horribly ruined with all of blood, and obviously looks like has been in a real battle and is in this glorious apartment. Now, the way the entry place works is you go up to a line that is embedded in the floor, that is a filigree silver work piece, that is where if you put your toes against, you are close, but you are out of the arm's reach of whoever's at the cell. It's up to you if you step over it, but you know that regular guards are not allowed to ever step over it, because 350 years ago, a guard got too close and snap, and that's it. So they've decided not to allow that anymore. So you step in, you see Hades. Hades, what do you do?
I think Hades is actually settled back in for a nap. There is a small stack of messages that he needs to go out to various individuals on the desk. He's stripped down to waistcoat and shirt and suspenders and all that type. And yeah, he's resting. I cleaned himself up the best he could. Probably has like a book resting over his eyes or something like that to block out the light, and he's napping.
Okay.
All right. Horizon.
And I'll knock on the. Are these bars, or is this what does the actual barrier look like?
So the entryway is maybe 25 feet square, but the apartment is the most top level penthouse, amazing shishi apartment of everything.
Yeah, but what's between me and just walking into that apartment?
Oh no, there's you go through the door and there's essentially a bar set that, but there is a full set of bars between you. Now you can unlock that door. Though you don't actually have the real key for that. Right. But the walls right now, you wouldn't be able to warp out of here because the entryway and the main apartment are both powered to stop powered characters from leaving. Yep. So,
plus it's a Vergence and it's hard to warp in a Vergence.
It's hard to warp in a Vergence, and so you see Hades napping, looking all very posed in his nap.
And calm.
What do you do?
I knock on the bars.
If you're an assassin, please be a little bit quieter.
I'm gonna leave this as an open between you two and let you go back and forth.
Yeah, and he'll remove the book and sit up
If I were an assassin, you wouldn't have noticed me.
That's what I was hoping. Right. My favorite brother, how are you?
How shall I put this? You have a friend who has the ability to shift forms. Do you not?
Possibly. I have lots of friends. It's really hard to remember them all.
Yes, obviously a prince. In any event, this friend is not in good graces with myself and Caphelon. Does that ring a bell?
No, I would be surprised you'd bring him up. I think I understand what you're trying to say. Yeah, he'll get up and brush himself off, and I would appreciate if you somehow brought me a wash basin as well, but I will take what I can get. So, Enkephalon, how can I help you? Welcome to my humble dwellings for the moment.
Well, it is possible I have talked to you previously and gotten your story, but I would like you to once again let me know what the hell is going on with you and your mother, because apparently she's dead and you are thought to have murdered her.
I was just recently informed of this myself.
Hmm.
I seem to have some missing time. Surprisingly, no one's actually questioned me yet, beside yourself, which is alarming already. And I do think I'm missing, hard to say time-wise right now, but roughly 14, 13 or so cycles of time. I think, if I remember from the GM.
Yep.
So I would like a better explanation of why I'm here as well. Last I recall, I was preparing for the festival, and I've missed it, which is just a tragedy in itself.
Yes. Well, I think this the Day Night Festival is rather ruined for quite some time, given how beloved your mother has been for so many years.
Well, we have an entire year to sort out the specifics for the next one.
Well, this all seems quite suspicious. If someone were to be setting you up or attempting a coup that keeps you off the throne, would you be your first suspect?
Were it a coup, I could see Kynareth, as she would be likely the next heir, or at least claimant.
She is known for her ambition.
And Caphelon, I don't think has ever had any proper drive for that particular position, but I've been wrong before. Largely, though, and this is an idea I would like to float out there, I don't know if this is a direct coup attempt as much as a attempt to sow chaos.
Okay.
Because if it was a coup, I think it would be relatively easy to kill me off as well. And then the path becomes far, far more easy.
Yes, that's true. Why are you alive? That makes little sense. So if that were the case, would you prefer to be in the cell covered in mess, or would you prefer, if you had friends, that they brought you out?
I mean, as much as I've enjoyed the chance to catch up on my reading, I would say,
of course,
I do think I'm ready to leave. Do you have keys?
I do not have the specific key necessary to get you out right this instant, but that could potentially be arranged.
Well, then, I shall wait with bated breath at the moment. If there's anything I can do to assist from here, I would happily do so. But
I think we might need your assistance later with that, but we're going to need to get things opened up here now. Now, do you have any reason, Varya from the Maelstrom?
yes, I've always gotten the impression they don't like me.
Hmm. Well, Varya's here,
Oh,
and I've been instructed to get in touch with her.
then it looks like we potentially have a ride.
Yes, that would be convenient if we can get our way out of Agoros in that using that conveyance. As she's got her ship nearby, she seldom goes anywhere without it.
If you can get somehow the key, I'm pretty sure we can just walk out of here. Right now, I would imagine, unless someone has officially come forward to claim the throne, things are a little bit in disarray.
I imagine there are a number of backroom conversations currently being had.
And so I think our best bet right now is to get this door open and me to remind everyone that I am heir apparent and there is no one else in charge right now. Rather than fleeing the city, taking a political journey to, let's say, the Serpent to talk to Down 6-3, Maelstrom to talk to whoever's in charge right now, inviting them to the funeral and getting a chance to gather some allies and secure my position.
What if your aunt?
Which the crazy one, the one that
called Galatea, the one who leads that weird orb cult.
The one with the eyes. She stared into the orb until they.
Yes, they do that. They blind themselves.
Yes. What about her?
Well, she was acting oddly, and I got the impression that someone is perhaps manipulating her, perhaps even psychically. I'm not quite sure, but she was oscillating in her presentation. Whoever's control, if she is being controlled, they're not doing a very good job.
I love the fact that it's like controlled, but also not well.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, she could be better controlled.
Yeah. If she were being, for example, if she were being manipulated in the form of a shapeshifter, they would be doing a much better job.
Of course.
That's actually 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
I'm less concerned about her. They've always been a fringe group in general, despite whatever ideas they have. They attract a few, shall we say, different elements of our culture. But largely, I think the Church of the Orb will largely keep her in check, at least until I have a chance to deal with that.
My concern is that she could be a pawn of some larger force. And could potentially be a figurehead cat's paw.
That would be unfortunate.
She, despite all of her strangeness, she is the queen's sister.
Mm.
And therefore, if you were declared invalid on grounds of matricide, she would have a claim.
She would. Not unsubstantial one. Then huh. That would be an option. I don't see there would be some obstacles in place for her specifically. The church itself would vehemently oppose her.
You
Kinnereth,
understand politics far better than I, but I thought I should bring it up that there seems to be something going on with her.
that is rather alarming. I mean, even with her fringe attitude, she's always been somewhat closely connected to the orb. So if something is trying to control or manipulate her, that doesn't bode well.
No.
All right, we are coming up on the top of the hour.
Yep.
And I will
Anyway,
tell
give
you,
me that key.
Yeah. And when you come back, there will be a complication thrown into the mix. I'm going to start a clock on Enkephalon coming to the jail.
Sure.
Oh, I did invite him earlier.
Yes,
actually
you did.
Demand that.
You demanded that he come. You sent him a note.
Yeah.
So that clock will be starting when we come back from break. So we are going to go ahead and it's a few minutes early, but I'm going to break it in now because this seems like a good time. So we're going to go ahead and take 10 minutes and throw up a banner and mute. And when we come back, then we're going to start the next chase and see what Horizon and Varia are able to do in getting Prince Hades out of jail. Dun, dun, dun. All righty. So let me go ahead and throw a be right back up, and I'll see y'all in 10 minutes.
See
Okay. And we're back. Dun,
Hello.
dun, dun.
I'm
All
sure
right.
you all missed us.
Yes. So what I'm doing is I am starting a little countdown. So I have a clock. And that clock is just here. I'll go ahead and share my screen for a quick second. So I have a 6 clock that is, and Keflon comes to the jail. And I'm going to say that while you have been talking, it actually progressed by 2. So it's not imminent, but at some point, and Keflon's going to respond to your letter and come to the jail. And then things might get more complicated. So, what is Horizon? What are you and Varia doing? You leave the cell, and I assume you walk up to Varia?
I'm going to see if I can find Varya.
Varia's at the top of the stairs, basically. Right in the hallway. Like,
Right.
Varia hasn't moved much. Maria's mostly kind of doing the tennis thing of
unless you went someplace else, yeah.
Yeah.
So I am still in the form of Enkephalon. I walk up to Varya. I think I've asked Ilaria to let Varya know that that this is actually me. Since
makes sense.
I know they've been chatting. And so I will walk up and say, so are you enjoying the festivities?
No. No, this is dreadful. I don't know how they live like this. Stuck inside of rocks.
Yes, I'm sure it's rather claustrophobic for someone from the Maelstrom. It's at least a very large cavern.
Yeah, well, my ship can fly. But speaking of which, are we planning on getting underway anytime soon?
Well, I was thinking of perhaps busting our friend Hades out of the Husgau and having a nice, escape scene.
Okay.
I mean, Varia will just kind of like shrug to you. Well, you're typically the one making plans. I assume you have one then?
Well, there appears to be a MacGuffin in the form of a key.
Horizon Leaves cultural history is just so vast.
Yes. Well, he travels, you see.
He travels, yes.
If we get this key, we'll be able to unlock the cell, bring down the arcane blocks that keep him from exiting, and get him out of there. I can stay in this form and walk him past the guards, as long as an imposter Enkephalon doesn't show up to mess things up.
That would be inconvenient. How did we get
the key?
I believe it is in Enkephalon's personal quarters.
Yes, you're just going to walk in then.
Well,
I am.
It's possible for that to happen. It's not beyond the realm of imagination. Again, really the only thing interfering is some imposter version of Enkephalon uh, raining on our little parade.
So then let's say if you decide that Enkephalon, you, are going to go to your quarters,
Mhm.
get the key, come back, then that would be a roll, and the consequence would move the ticks forward on the clock of the actual Enkephalon showing up and making things difficult. Does that
Mhm.
seem reasonable?
Sure, although I don't think of him as the actual Enkephalon,
No,
as
of course
much
not. Of course
just
not.
the interfering Enkephalon.
All right.
Um,
So then let me go ahead and share the magnificent role playing dice rolling screen. Okay, so Horizon. So this is an action roll that has a certain amount of weight to it. Um the results of you getting the key seem pretty standard, but the situation of Enkephalion showing up seems quite desperate to me. So what so how do you feel about that as your option? Do you want to do a desperate standard roll to go and get this next piece accomplished? Whoops. Did I mute?
no,
Okay.
No,
All right. All right. So David,
yeah,
does that make sense? Or
yeah, that's fine. Let's see, it's just a
what
matter
do
of
you want
how
to
we're going.
use?
Yep, how we're going to do that. Who's going to be the one making, doing the primary action and making the die roll?
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine taking the lead on that unless you have some specific uh, plan, Varya.
No, not anything specific. I could use my power to reach out psychically to try to figure out where he's at. But beyond that, I don't have a specific plan. I could
All right.
try to keep
That
tabs
could
on
be
him.
helpful. That could be
All right.
helpful.
So how about? So I'm going to suggest. How about we treat that as, if this is okay with you, Kirsten, we could treat that as
Mm-hmm.
I'm making a roll and Varya is spending a stress
Giving an
to
assist.
assist.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what I
All
would
right.
suggest. So
Okay.
which are you going to use of your power set? What are you going to
Right.
use as the way?
I think this is another sneaky plan. I have the most dots in contrive, so whenever I can roll contrive, I'm
Yeah.
going to roll contrive. Right.
Well, this
Uh,
really this honestly is contrive. I
Well, yeah,
think so.
it fits. I'm
So
not trying to weasel into it. We actually are doing a sneaky plan, right? So,
and so let me actually be clear for 1 second, and I'm going to share your screen for just a second to be clear with everybody who's watching. So your character has these, characteristics here, and contrive is a pretty good match for implementing a clever strategy using misinformation and so on. So this is good, and what that defaults to is 3 dice. Now you are getting some assistance here.
yeah.
So
So
how would you like to modify things
all right.
with the
So I have
fact
four
that you have
dice.
some assistance?
It's desperate standard, and
Yes.
standard will get me the key.
Yes.
Okay. Then I think it makes sense to just, I would love to be at a less risky position, but that wouldn't get us the key. So,
It's the coolest position.
yes, yes. So let's just make a roll at desperate standard with 4 dice.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I messed that up. 1 second.
No worries. New dice roller. Who
Still getting
dis?
still getting used to this dice roller. 4 dice
Yeah. Oh,
and 2 6s.
Oh, double sixes.
this one's a
Well
nice
done.
one. Okay.
I
Well
like this
done.
dice roller.
Me too.
Okay.
So that
So-
is a success with increased effect, and you can
Mhm.
decide what getting more effect looks like.
So I will say that the effect is that Varya is able to determine that the intruder, the fake brother, is actually in a room full of high-powered pain in the butt politics right now that looks to be keeping the character held
Busy.
still. So the clock is not moving forward. In fact, because of that role, I'm actually tempted to take one of the ticks off.
You can do that, sure.
So I think I will do that. I think I will actually remove a tick from the clock and make it slightly less. You are now 5 ticks away from Encaphalon coming to the jail instead of 4 because of such a fantastic role. And you are back next to Varya with the key, smug as hell. And so how are you going to do this? Are you going to go in and Varya is going to stand there and just wander off to the ship? Or how is all this going to work?
I think that Varya is our getaway driver. And my plan is to just say that the prisoner is wanted elsewhere, and I'm going to be escorting him in chains and just walk him right out.
I noticed that Hades' face, Jared's face when you said chains is like, excuse me?
Well, we have to sell this.
Well, you do have 2 choices. You can go in, unlock the gates, walk Hades out of the palace, or you could go in, turn off the warding, and you 2 could warp out, which would be hard to do because you're in a Vergence, but it is possible. You do have that.
It is possible. My character is terrible at warping.
Okay.
That's fair.
He has the basic power. He can travel, from one universe to another, but his ability to just sense and manipulate the Umbra in this way is not very good. And we are right next to a Vergence, which makes it extra super hard. So that's not the way he would think of to do this. If we had somebody who was super great at that, we could do that. And if Varya, who I see has 1 dot in warp, wanted to propose that would be fine with me. But it's not a thing I'm going to tend to want to do. I'm always going to go for the sneaky plan.
I have an idea. It might have to determine on a rules interpretation, but so I was gonna wait till we got the prison a little bit kind of broken open, but there is an ability, because I have 1 for open ability right now under the air play sheet called Authority,
right?
Which is you have in a position of authority within Agaros, captain of military company or vice chancellor or commander, something like that. Could I take authority and my position is king apparent of Agaros and just decide, no, I'm walking out of prison now, and
you're
king.
Not going to stop me.
I'm the king. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Does that work? Can I do that as my position of authority?
Yeah, I mean, you can try that, and we could flash back to having you say, look, if you can get me out of this cell, they're just going to do whatever I tell them to do.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Especially if you can get me a clean shirt.
Yeah, that would probably.
That definitely will help a lot.
Mhm.
The prince covered in blood thing probably
Well,
isn't going to go as well.
let me flash back to when I went into Enkephalen's quarters and stole the key. I also stole his nicest shirt.
Yes, and please, somebody explain about the flashback setup in the game for those who are watching and don't understand how that works.
Sure. I mean, these characters are assumed to be very, very smart and sneaky and capable. And as one way of addressing that, we don't distinguish between what's happening in the present and what happened in the past. So we can always, rather than trying to plan for everything that you could possibly think of, which is boring in the game, you can always say, I did this in the past. The GM can assess a cost for that or require a roll to see how well that went in the past.
Yeah.
But for obvious things like grabbing a shirt from somebody's quarters, I'm assuming you wouldn't add a stress cost for that because that's pretty.
No, that's super easy.
Yeah.
And
so you can always just say, I did this thing or I planned for this eventuality.
Exactly.
And then we work it out from there.
No, I think that's wonderful. Yeah.
I've always heard is, the for stress cost or resource for flashbacks is if it's something, relatively easy. Like I scoped the place out ahead of time and, got an idea like, okay, that's 0 or maybe 1 or maybe. 2 to 3 would be, I knew we were going to get attacked in this area, so I spent the last week training the local urchins to wield crossbows and had them post along the roofs.
Those damn urchins. Okay. So I have one question. So the air sheet has Prince Hades has a retinue and has clockwork shields.
Yes.
What are happening with your extended private guard and army? What are you going to do with them? Are you bringing them with you?
That's partially why I don't want to quickly flee the Vergence, because it's like I'd like to pick up at least the shields, the bodyguards, if not the full retinue.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Fantastic.
So if that authority, if I can use that authority to at least give myself king or at least king apparent, I will select my final ability as authority.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you can say that you've been formally, coronated.
Well, he hasn't been charged either.
Yes. Yeah.
That's one of the things that's weird about all this is
right. Well, it's only
the
next day. So
only the next day, but still, I mean, if Kyneth were really gung ho, it would.
And that's what we need to see real quick before we go to is Kyneth. I'm going to make her steward while I'm gone.
Okay.
All right. Fair enough.
Is that one of the proclamations that you've written out?
Yep. And so she either has to take it and then submit and recognize my authority, or she gives up her chance to claim a bit of power.
Mm-hmm.
So you were doing some beautiful calligraphy while people were
100%.
Okay, fantastic, excellent. All right, so
I am going to Varya presumably is already with her ship. I'm just gonna once again walk down to the to Hades' cell. Maybe that's not even a roll if I'm in Enkephalen's form, and there's no reason why they would stop me.
No, especially with the 6 and 1 extra backwards on the clock. I think you're fine.
They can always jump me ahead.
So you're in the cell.
I'm in the cell. It's like a regular key that I stick in a key lock, or is it something?
It's a regular key. So if you were just opening the gate to his apartment, then it is this elaborate brasswork key with a filigree head and the whole 9 yards. And it goes in, ka-chunk, and you hear boop, 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 wah, 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 and you hear things in the walls, but the gate just allows you to open it. If you were doing the other thing, then the key goes into this little clockwork mechanism on the wall that's supposed to look like art. So you are not turning off the power of the cell. You're just walking him out.
Yeah, at this point, I'm just walking him out. If I
Okay.
needed to do that, I would.
Okay.
But I have a key. I just open up the bars and swing them open, hand him a shirt, looking a bit, get yourself cleaned up.
Yes. He's found much, bottled water and done very, quite the.
And there are
quite
guards right there. Yes or no?
The guards are outside the cell. They haven't come in because they're
Okay.
they're terrified of you.
Right, right.
Especially
They're watching
the more you lisp, the more upset they get because they
Yes.
know that you
So-
lisp more when you're about to
Yes.
do something violent.
So Captain Ekfelon is taking Hades along, and it's none of their business what I might be doing here.
Yes, my lord. And they back up, but they clearly are baffled and scared.
Right. Well, I mean,
but
nobody knows how this whole succession crisis is going to be resolved, and they want to. Presumably, they want whoever ends up in charge. They want to end up, with their heads still on their shoulders and in their position.
Yeah. So I'm not even going to make you roll for that. So you
Yeah.
get Hades out of the cell,
Mhm.
in his blousy, amazing Prince shirt that's all
Mhm.
silks, with the subtle embroidery, and back to the top of the stairs where Varia and your, imaginary ghost girlfriend are hanging out. And the next step you take determines kind of how you're not just walking straight out to the ship. You're going and doing other things.
Yeah, I think my plan was to just walk out to the ship, and then now Hades is changing the plan.
Hades is being Hades about it.
Hades does not. Strolls out of the cell, immediately addresses one of the guards of, "You're going to deliver this to Lady Kynareth, with the strict instructions that she's taking over stewardship until I return and my mother's funeral and coronation. When Commander Enkefelon returns, you will give him this message." And let's see.
You are standing next to.
Yeah, so when he returns,
Mhm.
these are private instructions that he does not need yet.
That does confuse the guard, but the guard's not saying boo at this point. It's okay.
Yeah, he's basically leaving the proclamation of he's declaring himself king, and declaring that Kynareth is taking over as steward and planning out the funeral while he's gone and his coronation. And then he's also charging Enkefelon to start looking into the death of his mother. So he's splitting that duty up.
With the presumption that obviously it wasn't you. So
obviously it wasn't me. So someone needs to look into this.
Yes.
And he's also leaving a secret note that is going to go to just a random mailbox in the middle of nowhere that I might do a flashback to eventually, reaching out to Caledra.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, and he's getting his Void Stone back.
Oh, and Caledra, by the way, is your character's daughter, who is the primus of the blue faction, head of one of the mafia
boss.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So, well, let me ask you, Hades, what is your relationship with Iridescence Joy at the moment?
Iridescence Joy, I think we've met at various parties and kind of get together, because the Vergences, I imagine they have some kind of interconnectedness, and so you meet at various kind of locations and all that. And so I think they've managed to hit it off plenty of times. I think they've went off and done some kind of dumb things. I think, if I remember right, the personality traits listed for Joy was, where is it? Egocentric, aggressive, and skilled. And so I imagine, especially because his other contact is, all that, I think he's also Clan Vorhir, which is the kind of leading clan on the Serpent right now, with Down 6-3 being the official leader. It's kind of also maybe someone also somewhere in line to succession to the Serpent Throne. So kind of they started getting along together because the idea was, okay, when parents or whoever kind of officially kind of dies, they're going to be potentially the next generation kind of taking over the various Vergences. And right now, Hades is a little bit ahead of schedule.
Okay.
But
Unfortunately.
So what I'm going to say is that when you start walking out of the hall, I will have you do a roll for how well it works.
Mhm.
You can decide how you want to roll that. But you do see that Inkafel is in one of the secondary chambers with lots of courtiers and secondary nobles and Iridescence Joy. And Inkafel sees you, puts an arm around Iridescence Joy, and turns Iridescence Joy away from you so they don't see you leaving.
Okay.
Which seems a little odd. One of the things is that you let me just get into this for a second. When did you and your father have your falling out? Because you weren't always, he wasn't always negative. He started out, you actually used to have a very positive relationship.
Yeah, so I think it was largely during a lot of the because Hades has been groomed to become next in line. So largely from his mother and his father as well, taking over various court politics. I think Hades is not as cynical and a little bit more. I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. He believes there's a right way of doing things. He's not sneaking out of and all that. He's going to just do the right thing, and he's going to do it with a slightly commanding presence, and it will go the way it's supposed to go. I imagine he has disagreements with some of the more wheeling and dealing back alley stuff that Inkafel is probably more of a fan of or recognizes as a necessity, and Hades does not.
Yeah, Inkafel has, in your memory, Inkafel has been, for all of your adult life, a very clever, very manipulative, very capable, but you do have different memories of Inkafel, of early on being a less decisive and much sweeter and more parental figure.
Okay.
So one of the things is that as you started coming into your authority when you were younger, there seemed to be a definite shift in Inkafel's treatment of you. So my question for the whole group is, Varia, you do have the ability to notice when someone is not right, but you've known Inkafel has always seemed a little odd to you, always seemed a little off. Because the sister is obviously going through something, it might occur to all of you that Inkafel also is behaving a little out of character. So just before you leave, just an awareness of something to be, Inkafel is clearly working in your best interest, but that's new.
I mentioned already potentially using one of my abilities. I have that ability called Storm Sense.
Yep.
And Varia's been kind of chilling out, probably feeling the winds, so to speak. That ability specifically says I can detect things that are not in true form or things that are arcane. These people that you were talking about that have strangeness or whatever, can I detect a mystic? Is there an enchantment on these people? Do I have information, or is this just we get vibes?
How about we do a roll for how well that succeeds? You will definitely get something, but let's see. Just roll 1d6 to see how much you get.
Which dice do you choose? That's always the question. Oh,
Yeah.
pretty one.
Yeah, here, I'll do this.
It's a 5, by the way.
A 5. Okay. So I'm going to say, just because I wanted to give some possibility here. So you went ahead and you did a sense on the sister. And what you get is the sister is not one being at the moment. There are two beings there. And you can't, it's very hard to tell because it doesn't seem like a separate personality or a separate soul or anything like that, but more just the true nature of the sister is being, for a better word, tainted by something. Now, when you do that on the father, you get you've never done this on the father before. You've never done this on Inkafel before. So Inkafel comes back as exactly what you've always seen, with one very notable exception that you wouldn't have expected. Inkafel isn't supposed to have any powers. Inkafel is a non-bloodline character, except that person who reads exactly as they always have to you. Once you dive in a little bit and really push, they're of the blood. Now, do you think your ability would be able to determine, and David just, okay, David's gone.
That shocked David so much, he got blasted out of the universe.
There we go. David just, so I guess the question for you, Travis, is would that ability, do you think, and I will lean to David as the game designer, would that give you a sense of what kind of powers?
You can decide, or you can ask, do you want to probe further? And maybe
okay, so I'm going to ask if you want to probe further, because if you probe further, I will have you do a roll, and the roll will be just 1 through 3 yes, 4, 5, 6 no, or something like I'll split it right down the middle, but essentially knowing what power set that person has.
Sure, why not?
All right. So
I mean, this is a fortune roll, I take it, not a consequence roll.
No, this is just, I just want to know whether or not this comes back for you. But there's no consequences to this. So. Nope. Okay. So what you get is they're a shaman of the serpent.
Oh, I think I failed.
Yeah, he rolled.
No, I said 1 through 3 yes.
Oh, that's not how it works.
I said 1 through 3 yes, 4, 5, 6 no. So that's what I just did it backwards. So yes, you actually get, when you push in, you feel like this is a powered character who had done the drinking of the heart's blood and has shamanic powers. And this is actually who this person has always been the entirety of the time you've known them. You didn't meet them until after things went south with Hades. So the entire time you've known them, Hades and Hades' father never really got along. But this is the person you've always known. They're not necessarily, they're not the person that Indrahan married. And they're not the person who is the actual genetic donor for Hades. So that is just something to be aware of. They're working in your benefit. And this is something, by the way, that Hades it's up to you if you share.
This isn't Hades. This is Varya.
This is Varya. Varya gets this, but it's entire Varya's call as to whether or not this is shared, because this is something that has very big implications.
And I can tell it's not a shapeshifter then.
It's not a shapeshifter.
Like this is
something. Nope. This is an actual true person who has powers And
Drank the heart's blood.
they drank the heart's blood. For whatever reason, they look and sound and act exactly like they are, for all intents and purposes, they are Inkafell. Which
Did you
doesn't.
also just tell me that I know Inkafell is not Hades' dad?
Well, not necessarily, but I will say that what you know is that the Inkafell you met after Hades had a fallout. If you talk with Hades' memory of his father is, I mean, everybody has their own perspective, but the person that Idrahan married was kind of a wussy, a little very yes, darling. It was not a marriage that was something she was looking forward to. It was a marriage she needed to have, and he provided her a perfectly competent set of children, which was his use. But they've in Hades' memory, like, he was a very sweet, sort of kind of useless power player. And then when Hades started expressing his abilities, his father became a hard ass and became very political, which you can ask Hades about. But I'm giving you that information because being able to read this, there's definitely some weirdness going on. Not a shapeshifter, though.
And not the same two persons deal as
Not the same
sister?
two persons. Nope.
If I'm reaching out in this
Mhm.
way, are there any other persons in the palace potentially that are reading funny or like?
Ooh, alrighty. So that'll be another fortune roll. And why don't we say, let me pull up the rolling sheet. So David, as the game designer, for fortune rolls, there's not a consequence, but I can kind of split up what the roll means, right?
Yeah, I mean, it'll give you basically low, medium, high in terms of how successful that roll was.
Okay. All right. So let's just do that, because last time I messed with the numbers. So let's just do, go ahead and roll a die and see how
Normally
successful you are.
you would ask him to roll some trait, which could be like warp.
Okay.
In this case,
So
yes,
what?
not in any way, but
or study or whatever.
Yeah. So Varia, what do you want? What do you want to use?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a particular Varia's, the character I built is not the same as David's character. My character is wide, not tall. So, I mean, I'm rolling one die on most things I'm doing. This would probably be study.
Okay.
Like Varia's. Well, actually, it's probably warp. This is probably warp, in the sense that I'm just reaching out.
Okay.
I'm like exploring the palace.
All right. So go ahead and roll it, and let's see how much information you get. Okay. You feel at least two other people that are tainted. Not like the father, like the sister. Like, and oddly, they're not, I mean, they're not terribly important. Like, one of them is the assistant to the head chef or something. Like, they're not, like, you don't have like this particular important person, but you kind of have a sense that at least on your first initial pass, there's something very wrong in this kingdom. And there are some people who there's some kind of contagion.
Okay.
Okay. Good to know.
Okay. All right.
Burn the place down. No, wrong character.
Well, this is something
Alrighty.
Arya knows. We don't know yet.
Yes. So, Varia, what do you communicate to the other members of your party here?
Oh, nothing. This is terribly confusing.
Fair.
There's no reason to tell anybody about this.
Varya doesn't know whether we're involved in whatever.
Yeah, I don't
There
know
is
what's
that.
going on
Might
right
be,
now.
right?
There is that.
Presumably, I don't detect any sort of taint on us.
No.
I know that we've been
Mhm.
Nope, the only-
warned or told about some sort of weird stuff. So
No, the only thing I don't know if yours. I'm going to give you this as a freebie. I don't know if your power would normally give you this, but Hades doesn't have memory of the last basically 10 days, 14 day, like cycle before he came to Agaros for the parties, the day night
Yeah.
festival, and started setting everything up, and then everything kind of went to black and then woke up in the cell. So you see that something was done, but it's not a contagion. It's not it's just one of those things where Hades has some kind of psychic damage at the moment.
Some sort of arcane or psychic kind of resonance lingering.
Yeah. So something punched him really hard, and his memory hasn't come back yet.
And we don't absolutely know that Hades didn't kill his mom.
We don't. It's possible that Hades killed his mom. There was some comment about when they found him, he was ranting and he was furious.
Maybe she's
So we'll see. All right. So are you now booking it for the ship?
No, I want to
to
find a good. Good. Can you park the ship by this big public square? I want to give a speech to the people.
I think Horizon is going to say, I think it would be probably best to do that upon your triumphant return.
Oh, Jared, I love it.
There's a conspiracy. We don't know who is managing this conspiracy. There could be, for example, snipers, and we should probably be elsewhere until we know what's going on.
If there are people who don't want you to be king, now would be a perfect time to fry you. Just saying.
I mean, I did just leave
my
my cell. The thing is, everyone's expecting me to be in a cell.
Except for all the people who saw you walk out.
And the people you wrote letters to.
Well,
and you're walking out.
Yet, but
I mean, the palace has one main glorious, ridiculously opulent, and oh my God, so she corridor. You're walking straight down the middle of it outside.
honestly, if the
You're not-
GM ever threatened me with my character might be under threat of assassination and die right now, I'm calling that bluff. Like,
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm like.
I want
wanna
to see a PC just die and then just be like, oh shit, we didn't think it would happen.
Yes.
Yeah, gee, I'm real
Bring
sorry
it.
about how
I
your
love
head
it.
blew up like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have bodyguards for a reason. Okay, fine.
I love it. Please,
Only
by all
because-
means. Call my bluff.
I will say then, we'll quick stop by my estates, or maybe not even stop by, but just to
Isn't
make
that
sure
the
my
palace?
bodyguards. Yeah, so realistically, I think I just make sure I get the guard, the shields, and his retinue. I imagine they probably. How big is this ship?
It's not big. It's not huge. That's not.
So
what
I don't
it's
think my
made
full
for.
retinue fits.
No, I'm not inviting your whole party.
So like we get like.
Varia's had enough of this BS. He's done.
Okay. Well, at the very least, we'll take my guard. I'll leave my retinue here to also help prepare for the funeral / coronation coming up and assist Kynareth in what she needs, and also keep an eye on her.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move things ahead and say that you've been very, very, very fortunate. You do get all the way out you get onto the ship before the letters are delivered. So people begin freaking out when you are already leaving. I'm going to give you one more shot. Do you want to go into the main square and have a big old announcement, or would you like to head for Fallen Scythe?
Or elsewhere.
Or yes.
Horizon. We don't have to go talk to my dad. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
We don't have to follow the GM's quest, obviously.
Well, no. I mean, it's up to you. You've fought with your father before. I mean, he's always been very wise, and it's not like he's not,
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay. As your father, I understand. Wait, you're muted.
I am very tempted to give the speech just because I'm getting a second chance to.
I'm giving you a second chance specifically because of what Travis said, because I'm like, let's bring it. You have, now I'm going to explain this to people watching the live stream and the recording. Travis, Jared, and I have been playing for David on multiple of these. And Jared has a gift for being able to find places in the game system that need a little adjustment, including things like, oh, my character can make himself not bleed. Well, oh, look, he's essentially immortal and has done, things like this.
He did end up dying eventually.
Eventually. So I would like to welcome the chaos that is what Jared can bring, because I think that's fun as hell. And,
alrighty.
It's up to you. It's up to you.
I think I'll lean into the chaos then. We may not leave Agros. Okay. I just declared myself king. A king does not flee his kingdom. And besides, I have to secure my place among the common people, as authority before someone else says something. So,
right.
I think he'll use his retinue to basically make sure he has a quick kind of stage setup and all that to step forward. And he's going to give a nice kind of, friends, countrymen, sons and daughters of Agaros type speech, expressing his sorrow over the loss of his mother and his dedication to figure out what exactly happened. I think he phrases it very carefully in the sense of like, not sure what happened there, but we will, find what happens. Stability will remain supreme. Kynareth will, take care in his place as steward as he goes to make a diplomatic envoy to the other Vergences in preparation for his coronation and, of course, his mother's funeral. But to take heart in this time and blah, 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 blah.
So here's the thing that needs to happen.
Yep.
You need to do a greater desperate roll.
Yes.
In which, if you pull this off, then damn, all of them, they are so happy. They are, just please bring it to me, King. If you, depending on how this all works out, you've blown the clock, and all of a sudden there are 2 Captain of the Crimson Guards, one on the ship with you, on the dais with you, and one running out of the palace screaming bloody murder.
I think I might. No, so I had actually been thinking, this is not me cheating. I had actually been thinking, when I have the opportunity, I'm going to shift out of Enkephalan's form.
Okay. So you
still might be alarmed.
You're doing a flashback.
Yeah, I can do that through flashback. But as we were talking about, okay, we're leaving the palace. We're going. If he's going to be making a speech, I probably don't want to be in the form of the Captain of the Crimson Guard while he does that. Shifting back into my normal, human form. I don't actually like being Enkephalan because I don't like the way his thoughts are. He's kind of icky. So I stay out of that form as much as I can rather than hanging out.
So then I will say the desperate is that the letters are received, but they are not received in the well. And that because you are leaving and you are currently giving a bloody speech, which is obvious to see, depending on how you fail the roll depends on how badly it is received by the people who are.
get an assassination attempt on me.
So let's go ahead. What would you like to be using for your abilities for this role? And
I
are
would.
you going to be getting support from other people and all of the
Yeah.
things?
Well,
So
what are you trying to achieve with this role?
I think with
What does
this
success look like?
I think
So-
for success, I think it's basically getting the people on his side and kind of securing his place as I am king,
mhm.
essentially, of at least the common people, or at least, in this area and all that, in this crowd he manages to quickly gather. He is king, things are under control, and it's going to be harder for others to shift in and be like, no, he
Yeah.
murdered mom, blah, blah,
Yeah,
whatever.
for greater, if full greater effect happens, then essentially he's made it so that Kyneth and his brother don't really have politically any room to wiggle.
Mhm.
Like they have to go along with what he's doing.
Mhm.
But that's the top bar.
Mhm.
And below that is how unhappy they are and how much they want to go, wait a minute, and stop you from leaving and causing chaos.
Fair. I'm going to
So-
say I'll try. Oh, go ahead.
I'm looking at David's face. So David, as the game mat, good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Jared, what are you going to be using?
I'm going to try and use persuade because that is
Mhm.
influencing with charm, guile, argument, or oration, which seems to fit
Very
this
much.
particular situation.
And do you want to mirror 3 dice, or do you want to,
A mere 3 die. No. Let's see. Do I push? Do I take a devil's bargain? Can I get assistance? I'm not thinking I can. Unless anyone really has ideas for assistance. Is there a good devil's bargain for this one?
So explain how Devil's Bargain works for
I
everybody
would
watching.
love to. My favorite mechanic. So a devil's bargain is as you're making the conversation of like, okay, what kind of dice roll I want to make. You can go, what if there's something bad that for sure will happen to me, but I get an extra die? And by bad, I mean something that makes things interesting usually. So these can be anything from along the lines of something mechanical in the sense of you cannot resist consequences. I've heard that one before. Or, okay, no matter what happens, someone's going to show up or do something, or something like that. Or another tick goes on this clock or whatever. So it's something you agree, some sort of consequence that's going to happen no matter what, but you get an extra die to your roll.
Or you can shift the results. Now the results are already pretty good.
That's true. So the results are good.
pretty good. So it's a matter of if you want a 4th die.
Mhm.
Do you need a 4th die? Do you want a 4th die?
I want a 4th die. Of course I want a 4th die.
Okay, so
That's all it comes down to. Is there a good devil's bargain, or should I push instead? This feels
so
important.
Travis and David, do you have any ideas for a Devil's Bargain? Because nothing's really springing to mind. Like the consequences are already pretty notable at this point.
Yeah, so a devil's bargain is a consequence that happens outside of, happens no matter how the dice result come up. So even if you rolled a critical, the devil's bargain
It
would
still
happen,
happens.
and he couldn't resist it. So you've set up the consequences as the bad guys are going to do stuff. Things that I can think of could be that you create, depending on how many factions are arrayed against us, it could be a 3rd faction comes into play, or a 3rd party comes into play, not the specific enemies who we're dealing with. You'd have some idea of what that might be, Kirsten. It could be that
so like no matter how this speech goes, someone else is going to pop up and then potentially kind of a riot or something as faction lines are drawn.
Yeah.
How about no matter how this goes, Kyneth and your brother are both so upset at being outmaneuvered that when you leave, they pair up and decide to start working together.
I could live with that.
Okay.
Okay.
I like
All
my
right.
enemies
So that's
to
your
be
Devil's
clumped
Bargain.
Mhm.
Okay. I like my enemies when they all clump up together on me. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's easier to keep track of them.
Okay.
Makes sense.
All right, so go ahead and
4 dice.
yep.
All right, who?
I hope you
There you
fail.
Is it? It's
There we
rolling
go.
for a while. I'm
Okay.
nervous.
All right. Come on.
I don't know if I.
There
Oh,
it
there we
is.
go. Ah, and a
Okay.
6. Okay.
Okay. All right.
I
Fantastic.
didn't realize your long pause was the dice roller, not you.
Yeah, the dice
Yeah.
roller was loading, and so I just could hear the like. I don't know if you guys can hear it. I can hear the rattling dice, and it's like,
Okay.
oh, this makes me so nervous.
Okay. So the dice roll. So you got a 6. Fantastic. Your crowd. Oh my God, everyone, and your brother and Kenneth have been outmaneuvered and have been positioned where they. Yeah, you sent letters to them, and it was not something that they had the wisdom to read privately. So now they are stuck. And because of that, yeah, they're unhappy. And so while you're gone, they're going to talk about what might be done. And with that, we're at 4 past the hour. So we're going to go ahead and take our 10-minute break, and when we come back, we will see what happens when our crew travels through the Umbra on whatever destination it is they choose to go to next.
Assuming Hades is willing to leave Agaros at all.
Assuming that
Oh,
Hades has decided not to get like beer at the local,
Tavern with his adoring
tavern.
subjects.
I do need a bath still, and
There's a bath on the ship. Get your ass on the ship, Prince. Come on, let's go. All right, perfect. I'm going to throw up the "Be Right Back," and we will see y'all in 10 minutes.
see it.
All righty. And we are back. Yay.
Yes, we are.
And the voice changer has spoken. Love it. All right. So, all right. You rolled and you rolled well. So there was the, huzzah from the crowd. You're on the ship. I assume the ship is leaving the cavern. Where is the ship going? Is the ship going to Fallen Scythe at the
By
surface?
the way, where are we going? Because I actually forgot to ask.
Yeah.
I did say I was going on a diplomatic trip. Are we going to the Maelstrom first, or the Serpent? I guess we could swing by the place of the machines, the weird clockworks.
We had been requested to go to the Serpent.
All right, well, down 6-3 it is. I wonder how he's doing. I haven't really ever been super close with him.
Okay. And to be clear, you weren't requested to go to down 6-3. You were requested specifically to go see Fallen Scythe, which means the underbelly of the Serpent, the under.
Oh, for sure.
I just want to be clear that like the call was, bring us here, and then something about being tested.
But the cover story is we're going to down 6-3 as part of this diplomatic.
Yeah, it's a diplomatic mission.
So
exactly.
Yes, it is. So to explain, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, he said the cover story, but he's only talking to us.
Well, he announced the crowd. That's why he's leaving. It's not like, I mean. He has to have some. People need to think he's doing something while he's doing something else.
Do not pay attention to the prince behind the curtain. Yes. All right. So, please, somebody explain that at the Serpent there are different people in power. There is the person who's got the main in charge. There is a spy master, and then who all are the main players? Who wants to tackle that one? Just to give everybody who's watching a little gist.
There are many clans in the Serpent. It's a traditional place with different clans having different responsibilities and places and control over things. The leader is down 6-3. He's the overlord of the Serpent. But there are lots of other power players in charge of different clans and secretive groups. Fallen Scythe, who happens to be my father, is the keeper of the Underway. The Underway is the deep, weird, mystical parts of the Serpent, deep within its body. The Underway is said by people that it is some sort of passage that allows you to travel anywhere within the Serpent quickly and easily, which normally shouldn't be possible. And he's the leader of sort of a splinter group of mystic weirdos, and he has considerable political power within the Serpent as a strange person with strange powers. Does that fit your version of how things work, Kirsten? So you can add to that in terms of how.
And then there's also the spy master.
Yeah, there are different things. So there is an official espionage agency called the Night Watch. Its leader is the spy master. I'm sorry, his name is. I don't remember every name of everyone all the time.
Which person are you looking for?
The spy master of the Serpent.
Oh, Curling Tourmaline.
Curling Tourmaline, Dell's father, which is what. Okay.
And there are other powerful clans that manage different parts of the Serpent or send out riders in front or beside or behind the Serpent as it travels through the Umbra. So lots of different powerful groups here and there doing different things.
Right. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because heading into the Serpent, you're going to be going through the Umbra. So I'm going to use the random tables, and we're going to, have some fun with it. But at the Serpent, there is what Horizon would be aware of. The Curling Tourmaline's son had yes, I'm going to bring Dell into it, Jared. So for everybody watching, this is sort of a internal Easter egg, because Jared played this character whose official name was
Secret
Deliverance, which is perfect. And so we called him Dell, and Dell was a hell of a lot of fun. Well, in this universe, in this reality, Secret Deliverance was the most shining beacon of all things Serpent, like full JFK Jr., Arthur, Camelot, like the whole 9 yards, jaw, shoulders, everything, fabulous and wonderful. And 60 years ago, did the trials and had done all the testing and done all the practice and was the most perfect. And then what was a surprise to everyone was actually, I won't say 60 years ago. I will say in the past, because I'm going to tie that to something else later on. I don't want to have the times wrong. But when somebody does the Serpent trials, they go through this very difficult process just to get to the end and be able to drink the heart's blood. And Secret Deliverance had a companion, was able to bring and go through these things, and everyone met at the end. Secret Deliverance drank the heart's blood, and as happens when very rarely either someone of the power is rejected or some idiot who's not powered decides to drink the heart's blood because they feel like they should be. The Serpent pulses the blood. Essentially, the walls change color, and the person, they disintegrate and are supposed to reform. But it's very clear that it's essentially, this was a rejection, and it is a scandal of the Serpent that people. There's a lot of writing on the walls. Dell's still here. Secret Deliverance is still alive. All of this because there's no way he could possibly be dead. And at the time that he did his trial and failed, his best friend, who went with him through the journey and was essentially his right hand, freaked the hell out on everybody and completely lost it and started screaming bloody murder and stomped and left the Serpent and is now somewhere in the Umbra, probably living under a, living in a box under a dog somewhere, kind of thing. Just, not at all good. So going to the Serpent, one of the things Horizon would be aware of is this is the first time since that trial that a new member of the Blood is going through the trials. And it is the daughter of the current leader, and is going to be going through and has been tested and is a shining beacon and all that. But the culture of the Serpent, there's some weirdness going on of people not sure, because the idea being if they're properly tested, then they should just survive. But they're afraid to lose another. So there is some friction. The reason why, for people watching, that this is an issue is because if you are powered, you are not able to breed with someone else who's powered. You can only create children with somebody who's not. And it is very rare. So maybe a few children, every 80, 60, 200 years, you have more children, but you're not going to get a whole, clan.
Yeah.
So to lose the shining beacon, a thing. So you're heading there. There is this Horizon. It's up to you if you share this political strife. But you going in the back way is probably safer, only because there is the trial starting and there is a lot of political brouhaha going on. So it's up to you if you want to try coming in the front door and then sneaking around to your dad, or if you want to just sneak around to the back door and not have anybody see you. Which way are you heading?
Well, first we have to travel through the Umbra to get
Yes.
there. Right?
Yes.
What do you mean by backdoor?
Well, okay, no, you're not going in
Given
the
that
anus
this is a giant living creature.
Okay, you're not going in the anus of the
Or-
serpent. We are not talking anus travel. That's a completely different kind of game. We're not playing that here today. Thank you thank you for doing that. I love the fact that you got Jared.
But it's big enough, right?
It's totally big enough. If someone needs to go there, that can be your kind of game. Thank you, David. I love the fact that Jared is now purple. That's awesome. This is going to be a short I'm totally going to use
Jared
to promote
wrote
this.
the guide for the
Jared
guide
did
for the
write the
serpent.
guide for
You
the
didn't,
serpent.
yeah,
So
you didn't write
I
that
never
section.
thought about the serpent's butthole.
yes. No, it's the undercroft, the area where your father is there are some pores. There are some underbelly specific scales that are not at all commonly known to be able to be passageways.
Okay.
And you know where some of those are.
Okay.
There are a few of them. They all come with very interesting traps for the unwary that cause all sorts of gruesome results.
As there should be, yes.
As there should be. But so no, you are not. We're not doing snake anus at the moment.
Okay.
It'd be a cloaca, actually. But,
yeah.
you know,
there we go. All right. But what I want to do is I'm actually going to share this because we're doing these plays to show people the game. And I would like you to see, there we go, that one of the fun things is I'm going to ask everybody to use their imagination as well, but I can also roll some dice and come up with some combinations of what kind of world we get and what kind of creatures inhabit it. So, I'm actually, so this is a world and place generator and a creature generator table that I wanted to show everybody. And then I'm going to go ahead and just use the dice roller. All righty. Now, and I haven't done this in forever. So where's mine? There's mine. All right.
You don't have to change anything there. You can just click down.
I just clicked down on the 6. All right. So do I have my own?
Those dice you can use whichever ones you want. I just chose a nice selection so we can grab whichever ones we want.
All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And
you're rolling 2 at a time.
Yeah,
I'm rolling. I thought I could roll 4.
Oh, you can roll 4.
Use the table.
Yeah. No, I'm doing the table as 1, 2, 3, 4. So okay.
However you want to do it.
6. 2, 3, 6, 6.
2, 3, 6, 6. Okay, so let me go back to that table. And
so you want an adjective, a noun, and as many of the other.
All right. So menacing volcano with variable gravity, and it smells and tastes like sea breeze. And there are dimensional golems that stink to high heaven and are looking for glory and are trying to stop you there to be their royalty and are essentially just getting in your way. You can push through. Or you can stop and battle them. It depends on what you want to do. But this is one of the first worlds you come across. They're not actually trying to fight with you, but they're more like, I have always been waiting for you, my liege. And they want the glory of being able to follow you into battle. What do you do?
All right. So maybe we should explain how worlds work here.
Yes.
How the Umbra works here.
Yes, please.
So this is an infinite range of worlds. So just about any kind of place you can imagine exists out in this infinite Umbra or multiverse. Worlds that are similar to each other are next to each other. And the way that you travel through the Umbra from place to place, if you have the power, is that you move physically and you imagine a change to the world. So I could be walking along and I'm envisioning I'm traveling toward the serpent, and the sky where the serpent is a different color than where I am right now. So I envision a slightly different color, and suddenly I'm in a world that's almost exactly where I was just a moment ago, but it has a slightly different color sky. So I am now closer to the serpent. And by these many micro shifts from world to world, I get closer and closer. The world around me becomes closer and closer to that in which the serpent exists until finally I get there. So it takes more time to go someplace that is unsimilar to where I am to someplace that is very similar to where I am. And that's how travel works. So you're saying that we've managed to get through multiple world shifts, and now this is a world that we're in?
And potentially running into some issues, I guess, or not issues, but just a situation, I guess.
Okay. And we
You
are
are
Unmuted. There we go. Yeah, they're not trying to fight with you, but they are trying to, as happens in a lot of cases when you push into worlds, you create spaces where creatures have been waiting for you for generations or welcome you or whatever. And in this case, they're problematic in that they are seeking glory and they really are like, oh, you're here. I will follow you into battle. And it's up to you whether you're like, yes, that's fine, or piss off, we'll be back, we're getting coffee. Like, how are you handling this? They're not trying to attack
Yep.
you.
And we're up in the sky above them in the sky ship.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and there's, I mean, it stinks to high heaven, and there's volcanoes
sulfur
and
golems,
and they're, I mean, and they really want to be like, they're like, we'll come with you, you know.
Free retinue.
Yeah, but do you just push through? Do you stop? Do you do things?
I don't think we have space for them to come with us. So, although
Next time we're bringing a larger boat.
Nice to have
Okay.
friends.
All right, so you are aiming for the serpent. You are here. What is the next world shift that you make? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And who's pushing?
Yeah, so Kirsten, you can call for someone to make a roll to, bring us through the Umbra.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Okay.
true.
It becomes an action roll if you wish. You could set up a clock for us moving through the Umbra, and when the clock fills, we get there.
Well, I'm going to have you go pretty quick. So right now, I just want you describing some different worlds because
Yeah,
I'm
you can
trying
also
to
just
show
do it
off the narrative aspect.
Yep.
But my goal is to get you to the next stage because that's where the next important piece happens.
Okay.
That I want to hit before we close out today's session in
Sure,
20 minutes.
Sure. So let's say that we're traveling through the Umbra. Probably Varya's doing most of the navigation, I would assume, since it's your ship, and because neither Jared nor I have particular talents along those lines.
You don't know what you're doing.
We don't know what the hell we're doing. I mean, we can shift through the Umbra, but
I mean,
you're the one who's good at it.
But a giant steampunk battle, a sort of pirate ship of wonderfulness is probably not what you're used to.
my skills are talking pretty, and my special abilities are having friends. That's
There you go.
Friends.
Me talk pretty for money. Yeah.
Travis, what's the name of your ship?
That is a great question. One that I have not considered.
Okay, you don't have to come up with it this moment if you don't want to. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I'm curious.
I'll think about it. I love names, and I love names having significance. Very much in the vein of like the Othello play. I love that every character's name is like their role in the play. So when I name anything in games I play, I name them like directly a name that has a meaning for what they are.
What's that?
But yeah, so I don't have a name. I'll think about
Okay.
that. But I do know that the ship is very sleek. It is not. It's also like I know that we run on the phrase pirate, sky pirate, but like, I mean, I'm not going to say that my ship is a jet, but it's along that lines. Like I don't have like a wheel that steers it. I have like some sort
Controls.
of, yeah, like more like uh, a joystick, or I don't know what
Okay.
I don't know what they call it in a plane, but
A stick.
just a
Yeah,
normal stick.
stick.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially.
But yeah, I imagine it more like that. And the two traits of my craft, my skycraft, is very fast and very maneuverable. So it is in that vein of being uh, just like whipping through uh, space and the Umbra um, very quickly. And like we kind of touched on, like it's not a cargo ship. I'm
Sure.
not here to to transport much.
Awesome.
So, Kirsten, I'm going to suggest that you come up with the world that the serpent is in right now,
Mhm.
because as we travel, we have to start traveling to worlds that are closer and closer to that.
Yes.
So,
So the
what kind of world
serpent,
is the serpent in right now?
because it travels through the Umbra and slowly shifts about every month or so into a slightly different or sometimes notably different environment. Those on the surface are used to having scouts and adjusting, and sometimes are living in suits because the environment's toxic, all of these things. It is currently in a verdant pasture, big beams of light, rainbow colored Bambi creatures with little flappy sparkle wings, and all sorts of ridiculous amounts of cuteness. There are like translucent, iridescent bubbles that are floating into the air. The grass is purple, but it's also velvety and soft. And when you step on it, it goes and like has noises. So even as the serpent's traveling, there's a little
Uh-huh.
and it's all to a level of adorable that annoys the hell out of about a half of the population of the serpent.
I want to say
Uh,
that the multicolored ponies are really delicious.
I was gonna say that the
uh,
culinary tradition on the serpent is really finding this delicious, and like
yes.
the Instagram for the cuisine, because it's so iridescent, is amazing.
Yeah, and in fact, there's some gastronomic science that has figured out that those bubbles can be hit with basically essentially freezing, and then bring them in, and you shatter them, and you be eaten, and they taste amazing, and all of that. And of course, it's toxic to almost anybody else, but the serpent people.
If you boil it just right, and
Yes, exactly, and it's just wonderful. Um, so it is quite it's quite beautiful. So to shift from incredibly sulfurous, stinky volcano world to essentially one of the worlds that I built my life on in No Man's Sky is your call.
Okay. So if you want to have us, sort of a next encounter as we travel through the Umbra, as we're, obviously we're not
Mhm.
describing every single world we go through, but
No.
let's say a world of, we're traveling through the sky of a world that is, multispectral, multicolored. There are colors that normally your eye just can't see, that suddenly we're sensing, colors that we're not even used to being able to be aware of, with just vast rainbows all through the sky. And let's say that there are uh, sort of iridescent lightning strikes that we are having to avoid as we travel through this sky, and that Varya is having to carefully shift the ship through in its sleek, maneuverable way, so that these lightning strikes, which almost seem to be deliberately aimed at whatever is available as a target, she is carefully having to avoid. Does that
Okay,
sound like a
that sounds good.
place for us to be going through? If you want to
Yeah,
I got
add
and
one.
stuff,
that?
go ahead.
I would say this is maybe closer to the serpent and all that, but
Yeah.
So this is closer to that, nice, pretty world and all that, except the multicolored deer and all that are slightly more centaur-like, and they have this huge warrior honor culture. And so we're seeing kind of these battles play out below as various formations kind of charge into each other and all that.
Excellent.
Just the violent version of the world.
Okay, there we go. So the only potential hiccup in all of this travel is Horizon Leaf. Do you, as a general rule, not talk to your Tulpa, or do you?
Oh no,
Do you,
we have frequent conversations.
do you have them out loud where other people can hear you?
I try to avoid that because it freaks people out.
Because I guess my question is, how much does Hades know that you talk to your invisible ghosty girlfriend? Like what is going on with that?
I think there's some awareness. I'm from the Serpent. We do weird mystical stuff. And my father is a weird mystical guy, right? So I've learned some abilities and powers from that. So I think that in our adventures together in the past, he knows that I have. There's a creature which is not normally invisible, which can freeze people in place with her hypnotic eyes, but is not normally visible. I don't think I've mentioned that she is a sort of weird reincarnation of his dead sister, but he knows that there's a a, a, a person that is semi-real.
Now she can make herself seen if she chooses.
Her eyes can, right? So these hypnotic, glowing eyes that are very difficult to ignore. She can use that as a sort of a power and attack. Sometimes I use that. She'll create distractions for me to do stuff. But her eyes can appear, and then she can talk to you directly if she wanted to appear to someone, she could do that. But I have suggested that it's a little early for her to reveal herself to her brother as an incarnation of.
How much control do you have over your Tulpa?
I think that she and I are very well in sync. That usually she doesn't do things without checking with me first and having a chat. So it's not like she's just has no will whatsoever. But I think mostly, again, since she's an extension of my unconscious will, mostly those go along together, unless you want to have some outside force take her over, which you can do as some sort of weird consequence at some point.
No, I'm just going to say that you notice that there's a lot of strain once you're with Hades for her, that she very much wants to reach out. And you hear her, kind of whispering, "I miss you," to her brother, and just, sort of, it's kind of eating at her. And at one point on the journey, you notice that her eyes start to glow a little bit to where he could see her, and then she pulls back. But she would really, really like to talk to him. She misses him terribly.
Well, I'm going to suggest that at some point, as a consequence of a bad roll that I make, the consequence you impose is that she goes and talks with Hades.
Okay. Well, that may very well be coming. But I just want to say that, like, she's, especially the closer you get to the Serpent.
Right. Let's say for now, I've convinced her that his life is complex enough. What with, the death of their mother, that she shouldn't be bothering Hades.
She has thoughts
with her concerns. Yes, no,
she has thoughts about that.
I'm sure that Ilaria and I have had long conversations about this.
Yes.
Varya, I think your ship is haunted, and also you're out of red wine.
Yes. All right. So let's say that you
But yeah,
have.
at some point, I'm fine with losing some control over Ilaria
Okay.
if I roll badly on something.
All right. So you have shifted. You are heading for one of the scales that is the secret back door. It is
Is it
certainly,
big
you know,
enough for the
it
ship,
is
or
big
will we
enough.
have to leave the ship behind?
It is big. Well, what's funny is that it is not quite big enough, but you know that that's not actually true. Um, and so when you come close, you are able to do the combination of things that essentially clicks it into place with another scale,
Right.
and then clicks with another scale, and they all move as one
Did
and
we
make.
encounter like wake riders on the way in, or patrols, or anything along those
You
lines?
should have,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you didn't.
Okay.
Which would, but you're coming in specifically a way that is
Sneaky.
it's a sneaky path, but yeah, clearly somebody is greasing, that is clearing the way for you a little bit.
Hmm.
um
Okay.
and so you're able to pull the ship in, you're able to berth the ship, and then there are those pods that are essentially combination of bubble car, uh under, tube or whatever, where you can go inside and sit, and it will take you very, very fast and very disorienting path to the place where your father works and spends most of his time.
The
Okay.
bloodstone.
So
Were there
yeah,
guards there, or is this so secret that
there should, well,
there-
the only guards that would be there would be very specific traps that your father has set up that you had to learn how to disarm over the course of months and years.
Okay.
This is not a way in that anybody could survive without training.
Okay.
So there's a certain amount of knowing that you are counting 1, 2, 3 turn
All right. So I
and
have
going,
to lead people through this.
you are having to be very, very careful. And if someone were to distract you at this point, it would be a very bad idea. I will put
Yep.
it that
Horizon
way.
Leaf, what are you thinking about? Horizon.
Yeah.
Horizon.
So I just wanted to open that out there for, just in case. But what you have ended up at is you are now all in this. It looks almost like a dock, but everything is in tones of burgundy and red and purple and so on. And essentially, you have come up and docked at what looks like an extended underscale of wharf area and shacks and things like that are basically, they only contain beings that will then work at your father's command. There's very few active sentient creatures down here.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the lights on in your father's shack, which is, it's not subtle. It is it is the size of a very, very nice 4-story house, but because of your father's, I guess, sense of humor, there are these blood bats flying around screeching, and there's pulses of sort of lightning stuff. It's very much a do not come here kind of welcome.
I think
you think of it as home. Yeah. But he clearly has been turning on all of the Halloween, kitsch for a while, because it's very much you hear moans of like, and and pulsing things in the swamp area. So it is even more actively theatrically unpleasant than the last time you were here. Which
I've been preparing Hades and Varya for, I kind of think of myself as, okay, so I'm from the Addams family, you see, and we're going to come meet my family, and they're a bit odd, even for bloodline characters,
Even for the serpent.
even for the serpent.
Yes.
Wonderful. It's going to be
so-
moist, isn't it?
It's going
It's
to be
very
moist,
moist.
and there are going to be lots of creatures made out of blood. You see, but if you don't stick anything into them, they won't explode.
And thank you for that quote, because that's also going to be a short that I will be using to promote this game. Well done, sir. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes. Don't stick anything into the beans. There we go. Yeah, some parts look deliberately dilapidated. Some parts look like they're glowing. You know, it's very much in all the creepy you can get.
Fall inside this. He's got a certain flair for the dramatic.
He does. So you end up inside the house. The inside is not what you would have expected. Please, Horizon, describe the inside of the very nice, uptight English professor house of your father, who looks like Derek Jacobi.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think there's still that element of, sort of strange blood-like things. But let's actually set this as sort of the mansion of the Addams family, but with a serpenty flair to it. But there are like ancient suits of armor and many portraits, and blood. Servants made of blood slowly, walking around, cleaning things or doing very servantly things. And my father is also the leader of a weird sort of cultish, deep servant organization. So he's running things, and people are coming in and out from time to time, and he's sending out letters of instructions to various people. That's how I envision it.
Varia, what's your reaction to this?
I was gonna ask, is there fire here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's weird colored fire. It's sort of purplish.
Yeah, I think there are a number of. I think the lamps are sort of flickering gas lamp things, and there are occasional fireplaces.
So scream moss burns purple.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Has the occasional screamer moan.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Varia will kind of glance around. Presumably, we've landed and disembarked from the ship at this point. And like if we're walking in and everything, I'll maybe glance over at Horizon, and I'll be like, well, I can't say that I'm upset I was never invited over.
Nice.
For crown.
Very nice. Very nice. Yes. Yes.
Oh, come now, Varia. I did invite you several times, and you were busy.
I prefer
No,
crown.
I just meant my meetings with your father. They were never here.
Yes.
Other places on the Serpent are perhaps more palatable.
Yes. And when you get past the essentially the entranceway, and you head for what would be the lounge, the study area, things get progressively cleaner and more fussy and tidier very, very fast, almost to the point of that as you walk forward, you see a little bit of warp that is, some of that is illusion. It's not nearly as gross as it looks, but it's definitely pushing the ick factor when you first come in. All sorts of things are squishy, all sorts of things are sticky, things are hot, things are nasty. And the closer you get, the more it becomes almost Downton Abbey, in a very Addams Family meets Downton Abbey kind of way, which just go ahead and rock with that imagery right there. When you come into the study, you see 3 chairs. One of them is occupied. And so you walk into the room, and Horizon, your father, says, "Welcome, Varia, what are you doing here?"
I was.
You tell me, this is your idea.
Igrafel said we needed to come see you.
Wait, who did?
Oh no.
Oh, that idiot. Oh. And he starts, he just breaks into it, the ancient tongue of the serpent, and is cursing in all sorts of special ways. I did not need this.
Yeah, I'll lean to Horizon. I don't think I was invited.
Well,
Do you not have another chair?
Is this gonna be a musical situation?
actually, so what you notice something unusual, and Hades, as soon as you say that, you notice that he actually tries to suppress a laugh. And he's annoyed that he couldn't. Like, he actually snorts and is a little irritated. He stands up and gestures Varia, you to the chair he was in, Horizon to another one, Hades to another one, and you notice that in this room there are guards along all the walls. They have weapons. They are standing ready, and there is a table off on one end that has 3 very odd looking contraptions on it that have symbology of the serpent, Agaros, and Maelstrom. And he starts combining them together and tells you to sit. Like, asks you to sit, but it's not asking.
I think Hades sat down before he even said anything.
Well, it's good to be home, Father. Thank you for this nice welcome.
We will talk once this is done.
Of course.
No.
So, Varia, do you sit down?
Bread and salt.
I guess so.
I don't know.
Okay. So you all sit down, and he assembles this one ring that has serpent runic symbology on it, a ball that has from the Agaros symbology and runic symbols into the ring, and then wraps this cage and clanks it into place that is a wireframe that clearly has ancient language from the Maelstrom carved into it and symbology. And all of these, as they come together, you feel the power of this thing starting to increase and change. And you could almost think of it as colors, like it's shifting through the prismatic spectrum, and it's becoming all white. And when it's done, he points this at you and says, "I'm sorry, this is going to be uncomfortable, but I have to know if you're demons." And he turns it on. And that's where we end today's episode.
I thought so, yeah.
So
Okay.
this giant light is streaming at all of you to find out whether or not you are in fact demons from hell, which, as you all know, is a myth.
No, just the underworld. Hades, you know.
Yeah. Yep. So that is where we are today. You're sitting in chairs. You are about to go through an experience to be tested to find out whether or not you have been corrupted by demons.
Well, I'd like to know that too.
And so that's where we are in today's. And what I want to do is actually bring up the the sheet
Oh,
and
yes.
talk about what happened at the end of last episode and what happened this episode. So let me bring up the play sheet here, and shift it to the succession. So who would like to explain what this part of the game is, like what we are doing here?
All right. So there are different challenges that you can play in this game. That's a campaign structure. The one we are playing through is called Succession. This is our alliance to deal with the succession crisis, and this sheet is kind of showing, it kind of guides the group through advancement during this. So at the end of every session, we decide on whether we met any milestone triggers. Most sessions we're probably gonna. As we acquire milestones, we'll get advancement points or upgrade points, which we can use to buy stuff. We have 2 upgrade points left over from when we set this up, and then assuming we meet a milestone trigger, we'll get another milestone, another upgrade point.
We should take this from last episode and this episode combined.
Yeah, that's fine.
So go ahead, the 3 of you, and talk through what you think makes sense.
So on the left, there's a list of minor milestone triggers. We did not achieve an alliance with a faction. The other ones are publicly embarrass or damage the reputation of a rival claimant or faction. I don't know if we did that. Publicly advance the reputation of your claimant. I would say that we did do that because you made your wonderful speech. The other ones are acquire useful secret information about a rival claimant. We didn't do that. Damage, destroy, turn, or eliminate a major ally of a rival. We didn't do that. Uncover an important secret about a previous monarch's death or removal. We didn't really do that, but I'd say that we did publicly advance the reputation of our claimant, who happens to be Hades.
Yeah. Wait. Did we agree that Hades is the one on the throne?
Hades agreed. Hades has already claimed himself as king. I've already changed the name and everything.
Well, I would say that I'm not much of a claimant to the throne, and Varya is not much of a claimant to the throne. So unless you want to say that we're trying to get Kyneth on the throne, Hades is probably the logical choice for us. Unless you murdered your mom, in which case all bets are off.
I mean, she might have needed to be murdered. We don't know.
That. Yeah. Maybe she was
the demon.
Yep. So I'm going to say that we met a milestone trigger.
Sorry.
Which would check off that first box there and get us 1 other upgrade point. We can have 3, which we could choose to spend at any time or bank. But there are some cool abilities that we can get. There's a whole.
We should probably take deep cover so they don't find out that we're demons.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bank for now because there's a couple that I think might make sense, especially once we find out we aren't demons.
Yep. Yeah.
Find out we are. All right.
Once we get 4, we can either get an additional special ability or get an additional action dot, both of which are pretty darn useful. But there are a bunch of other things that we could do. Get cohorts on our side. We already have a cohort of spies. We should probably think about making use of those. Those are different cohorts, and giving them missions to engage in, since that's another part of this game. We could think about going into a scheming phase in the next session and each getting a scheming action to play with to do some cool stuff.
Okay. So you're banking.
I'd say let's bank for now, just to
always bank
until we know for sure kind of what we want.
Never spend any upgrade points ever.
Everything in the game is permissible to be spent on the spot. You don't have to. You don't have to do anything ahead of time. So like we don't have to choose aggressive for executing assault plans until we're like, oh shit, this is the second assault plan we're doing. Like, we need this extra die.
Yep.
We
So
should probably consider
Yep.
ourselves aggressive. Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Totally
So, all right. So that is where we're going to leave it for episode number 2 of Succession. Thank you, everybody. Please, in Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, all the places, leave comments, send us notes, let us know what you think. And next week, we will
Even
be back.
MySpace.
Yes, go ahead into MySpace, use your AOL.com. Let's go ahead and figure out next week whether or not anyone in the party is a demon and what the hell that giant light thing does. So there we go. All right, good.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you all. Much appreciated. I'm going to stop and bye everybody.
See ya.
Secret question: what note did